Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And Elemental Shaman is absolutely rocking it right now in Dragonflight PvP. This is a specialization that is great if you're a beginner or an advanced level player. I will have my talent and build linked in the description down below, but in today's video, I'm going to be running you through one of my solo shuffles and what I'm aiming to do to have success. I've climbed up to almost 2,500 rating now at the moment, so I wanted to share some of the lessons that I've learned throughout that and some of the cool things that you can do with this specialization throughout this video. So the first main objective on Elemental Shaman is to get your Flame Shocks out and your Fire Elemental on cooldown as soon as possible. This Fire Elemental will have cooldown reduction throughout the game. We're going to root up both melee attackers and start spamming out our Flame Shocks and aim to get our Sky Fury and Primordial Wave Lava Burst out right away, because this is going to amplify our haste stat, and it's really important in terms of scaling your Lava Burst procs. This is something fun to do as an Ellie, is if a healer's just in the middle of the map, you can just lob out damage towards them. A lot of healers play a mastery embellishment, so they have to be above 80% health to gain a huge boost of mastery. So by just chunking some damage at them out when they're out in the middle of the map, you can remove that extra bonus healing they're getting and really put them behind, and sometimes actually just be able to kill them often. So I love pressuring healers in this sense and just kind of bouncing between them and the opposing team. Although with double melee, you do need a little bit careful about kiting and keeping Earth Shield up on yourself while you're doing this type of harassment onto the enemy healer. I see a double blind and I don't really want to break it at the moment. I'm kind of just letting it sit. We want to be using Gust of Wind on cooldown and Thunderstorm on cooldown, or when you're stunned is usually the best times to do it, but you want to be using your knockbacks and your jumps basically as soon as possible. I've been sitting on this knockback. Knocking a Fist of Fury is honestly really good against a Windwalker monk, as they will have to stop the channel to reconnect to you. We get put into a Blessing of Protection, so we can play a little bit aggressive here. We've got our Primordial Wave. We've got our Fire Elemental. Again, press that as soon as possible. Make sure you use its Meteor ability here. I've got a keybound to control 6, and we just lob that out with a couple of Lava Bursts and almost dunk the monk down through his Touch of Karma. We're going to swap back to whoever is nearest to me in line of sight when we're really getting heavily pressured. This way we're not overextending, taking too much damage. We knock the Death Knight away. He grips me in. Now I can Gust of Wind, and we want to make sure we're pressing Healing Stream Totem basically on cooldown, and try to aim to keep Earth Shield up if your team is really getting pressured. Like here, at me not having no Earth Shield is putting me behind. You can call in an Earth Elemental, and the Earth Elemental actually has a stun, but when you're really in danger, you're going to have to use Burrow. In the opener, you can see I used my Trinket and my Astral Shift on their enemy cooldowns. Next time I'm in trouble, I use my Burrow. That'll give me time likely to get back to my Astral Shift, so long as I'm using my Healing Streams and my Earth Shield. So we've dropped Healing Stream again. We got Earth Shield up as we are getting pressured quite heavily, keeping our Flame Shocks going out and just spamming out instant cast. We knock the monk, we go for a Hex out of the knock, and we're just lobbing Lava Bursts out at the Death Knight. And if you're not getting any procs, you can use Earth Shock in order to get a Lava Surge proc to lob one out. So even if you're getting bad RNG, you can guarantee some Lava Bursts. And you can see that it's got a very similar playstyle to what honestly Ellie used to have back in Mists of Pandaria. Primordial Wave out. You want to get that Primo Wave out as soon as possible. It's really important for boosting up your haste to get your Flame Shocks proccing more spells moving forward. So you can see I could have done a little bit more in terms of support with keeping Earth Shield and Healing Stream up during the middle of that game. It would have made it probably a little bit easier for my healer to deal with it. In the opener, I generally like using Trinket and Astral Shift or Ancestral Guidance. Ancestral Guidance is also really powerful. This is going to mitigate a lot of the sustained damage held by your entire team. But you can see folding in the elementals is also really important. You also want to sometimes use Greater Purge whenever you don't have a Lava Surge proc. This can be good filler outside of Earth Shock just to remove some initial buffs like Freedom or Blessing of Protection. So here at the start of the game, we just Greater Purged all the buffs up while getting the Flame Shocks going. Primordial Wave is up. We're jumping over to the Priest to get that third Flame Shock, and I want to lob out triple Lava Burst with the Sky Fury down. And we're going to chunk the entire team basically down to 60% in that first combo with that Primo Wave. And now I've got haste out the wazoo, so I'm just going to be proccing Lava Bursts like crazy for the next couple of seconds. But we've used Ancestral Guidance to mitigate damage while we pushed in, and now we're just going to use our Astral Shift to continue to stand close to the enemy healer. Generally, when you have double melee on you, it's not the greatest idea to kite them on top of the healer. I didn't feel safe here during Wings from the Ret Paladin and Death Knight. This is going to be the scariest point in the game, so I do end up using Burrow at this time as well. We've got our Primordial Wave. We want to get this on cooldown as soon as possible. Lob that on the Priest, trying to get as many Lava Bursts out as possible to proc as much Primo Wave stacks as we can. We've got all those haste stats. We're getting procs out of the city once again, and we're just lobbing Lava Bursts. We're not looking to really cast anything. Just keep Earth Shield up, Healing Stream down, Flame Shocks up, and keep proccing Lava Bursts. Chuck them out over and over and over. Here I saw an opportunity to stun the Death Knight because the Ret Paladin was out of range to kick. So I took that opportunity to stun him, and he ended up trinketing it. So we got his trinket. We can use Thunderstorm to knock them out of the barrier, and now we can jump away from them, drop a grounding totem when you jump, and look, you can ground a Death Grip from the opposing Death Knight, so they're not able to reconnect to you just right away. So grounding totem is really good for denying abilities like that. We get a stun over onto the Ret Paladin. We've got our Fire Ellie. Honestly, I should have activated it already at this point, but we get it going right here. Good job past me getting that Earth Ellie out. Get a double Earth Grab root, keep Earth Shield up. We're taking heavy amounts of damage, so I'm tossing out a couple off heals, and the best part about off healing on Ellie is if you get kicked, it doesn't matter. You just tank the kick for your healer. Now they don't have to deal with it, and you just go back to putting Flame Shocks and Lava Bursts out. So it's actually a very relaxing playstyle, much less frustrating than a lot of other classes you may experience in solo shuffle. We got that Primal Wave on cooldown. Lava Bursts are flying through. We've got those stacks moving, and we've got a lot of stats. We try and jump away. We get gripped. We didn't have grounding. We're just going to Ghost Wolf with Wall and try and reposition a little bit further away. Trinket out of the stun lock. Go for a lasso. End up getting kicked by the Ret, and we're taking so much damage. We don't get the Trinket Void Shift. He tried to save me with the Life Grip right there. Probably we're going to win the game if we got the life swap off at that point. And this is why like trying to slow down damage in those critical moments can be a really good strategy. Trying to play the game to make it as easy for your healer as possible can be a really good way to make sure that you're winning games, because a lot of the time people are just overextending and doing as much damage as possible, and those players that are paying attention to where their healer is and trying to mitigate damage or off heal a little bit and support them are the ones that are going to edge out a little bit in terms of efficiency. So we almost won that one. We're pretty close. We're going into round 3. We got another double melee moving into here, and honestly playing Unleash Shield wouldn't be bad in this lobby. I don't remember if I changed my talents or not. We get that Fire Ellie as soon as possible. We root them to get a little bit of distance, and we start trying to get those Flame Shocks out. This Primal Wave is a little bit early because he dispelled the Flame Shock. It can be really tough with healers that spam Dispel, Ret Paladins that have Judgments of the Pure as well. So I don't always aim for like the perfect triple Flame Shock stack with those. I just want to make sure I even get 2 Flame Shocks out with Lava Burst, because I'd rather just have the haste and get the engine going and get the ability on cooldown. I'm just maintaining as far of distance from the melee attackers as possible, trying to Hex the Windwalker, pull him away, and crowd control him as much as I can, because Windwalker Ret is going to be really scary in the opener, so I really want to slow him down. Get kicked on the Hex, again, not a big deal. We just go back to chucking out Lava Burst and then just go for the Hex again. We get kicked again. Now we might need to wall. They've got some cooldowns, but I see my healer in Angel form, so I'm trusting that the heals from them is going to be great. They're immune to CC while they're in that, and I have the Guardian Spirit. Priest gets Death Gripped in. We're going to Thunderstorm them all away, so my Death Knight probably hates me, but hey, I passed him into a full fear, so it works out. Accidentally making a sick play right there as he gets knocked into a full fear, chucking out more Lava Burst over onto the Ret and looking to pull back, maybe potentially into the side room. Wouldn't actually be that bad. If the Ret follows me, he'll probably go down because his healer's not in line of sight. Regardless, we get Divine Shield on the Chastise stun, so we got to focus on defense. When you get bursted really low like that, sometimes using Burrow can be better than Wall first. Wall is a bit of a gamble, whereas Burrow will just stop all of the damage. But we survive with the Wall. We're caught in a leg sweep, so use Thunderstorm. I see anti-magic zone is down, so I want to stay in this purple barrier up until the Monk Ring pieces me away from it. We can lasso Fists of Fury. Against Windwalkers, just want to stop Fists of Fury as any ways possible. We got our Fire Ellie off cooldown. We're looking for a Hex off that fear. Always try and look for crowd control chains on the healer, especially when the enemy team has no way to decurse. Your Hex is actually very powerful. A lot of Ellies just only focus on putting raw output numbers out, but when you can actually abuse Hex, it's one of the most powerful mechanics you can really get away with here in this type of situation. But we're getting low. I'm dropping healing streams, and we're going to burrow at the same time. Still just trying to mitigate as much damage as we can. I should have used Tremor here on the Priest, and I ended up not seeing it until a little bit too late, but you do want to pay attention to if your healer is in fear and use Tremor Totem to break those whenever you can. We got Primal Wave, we got Sky Fury down, Lava Bursts are coming out, we got that engine back online, we got maximum stats and power. We're going to be able to do a lot of damage, but they also have Avenging Wrath, so we need to be thinking about using Ancestral Guidance and potentially stun locking enemy targets here to deny their damage or bait their trinkets. So we get Trinket and a Blessing of Protection. Karma from the Windwalker. They're starting to fall behind, so they got defense up, so we need to start kiting, healing streaming, Earth Shield, and Gust of Winding away and trying to get some distance. We get Trinket here onto the leg sweep. We get critically low and end up going down. This one did not look nearly as close as the second round in terms of defense, unfortunately for ourselves. So we're down 2 rounds now. We're going to need to bring it back for 3 if we want to be winning this lobby. And this is where I think I made the decision to switch to Unleash Shield, which is really good tech, and honestly could have maybe been the difference in me winning the last 2 rounds that I just lost, which is why it's super important to realize you have a lot of other talent options. So Unleash Shield, when you have Lightning Shield and Earth Shield on yourself, will knock an enemy away from you and root them and it's on its own DRs. So you can get a Thunderstorm knock into an Unleashed Shield knock, and it's one of the best ways to deal with melee DPS. And I didn't have that in the first games here. So now these are likely going to really turn up the heat. So we got our Fire Ellie down, Flame Shock's coming out, Primal Waves are out. We're trying to get that engine going. Sky Fury down for the Lava Burst damage. He's popping Grippy Boy, so we're going to jump away. We dropped Grounding Totem, though, for Unleashed, so we're not going to be able to ground those grips anymore. We're going to be likely using those knockbacks either with the Death Knight, but you need to be careful of Death's Advance. It's a purple-looking icon, which makes the Death Knight immune to knocks. We got a Thunderstorm. Barrier comes down from the Priest. I want to stay inside of this barrier, so I'm just going to do damage to whatever's in my line of sight here. We Unleash Shield the Ret Paladin away from ourselves. The problem with doing it on the Ret is that Rets have 20-yard range, so I actually don't think it's super valuable. Honestly, the Unleash may not actually be that valuable in this lobby against the Death Knight and the Ret, because they both have some range spells they can use while they're trying to get to you, but we're going to jump away. We get the Yard Stun, which is actually good for us. We got our Primal Wave off cooldown. We want to get that going as soon as possible with our Sky Fury Totem. It's a really good idea to try and sync those whenever you can. Primal Wave down, Sky Fury down, big Lava Burst coming through, and I'm trying to pull the Ret out of line of sight around this ramp away from the Priest's Angel. Whenever Priest goes in that Angel form, they're stuck stationary, so you can pull enemy attackers out of their line. Healer gets feared here, and I did not tremor fast enough, so I panic burrow, and then they have to use Trinket Life Swap. Looking for a Hex out of this fear. He gets the fade, so we're just going to wait for that. We see a Paralyze come through, go for the Hex again. Again, not a big deal if we get kicked on this at this time. We go for the Hex for the third time, and we end up getting the little ribbit there, but Anti-Magic Zone is down, so we're going to jump away from that with Gust of Wind, try and get some distance. We got our Sky Fury. Primal Wave is coming off cooldown. We're going to Earth Ellie stun the Ret. We see an opportunity off DR there. We also, I think, get a little bit of extra stamina with the Earth Elemental out, so it's going to make us a bit tankier. Stun the Death Knight while the Ret's out of range. Unleash Shield him away. And you see the Unleash Shield is actually not getting that much value because they're both very fast with Freedom, and they both have a lot of ranged abilities, so it may not ultimately be too powerful here, but it is definitely into the Windwalker. We get Karma traded by the Windwalker. I see that down, but we're still taking a lot of damage, so I'm just going to use my Astral Shift, keep Earth Shields up, try and maintain pressure here. Honestly, attacking the healer could be a better idea for me right now in this situation, so moving towards the healer, keeping Flame Shock up and trying to keep pressure on them and remove that Mastery stack that they're likely running for an embellishment would be a really good idea. We get the triple Primal Wave, Sky Furies are down, Lava Burst flying through, and we're starting to do a lot of damage, so we're going to jump and just keep chucking out Lava Burst as we get procs. A little trick is to just spam jump. This way you'll never accidentally hard cast a Lava Burst. Sometimes you'll lose a little bit of DPS if you're ever actually hard casting a Lava Burst unintentionally. We're going to lasso, run around the corner and try and escape the Ret, and now it's very scary. The Ret has Avenging Wrath up. We're in a Hammer of Justice. We're going to get dispelled and gripped away, though, by our Priest into a great position for us to be able to free cast, and we are just lobbing out massive amounts of damage with the Ancestral Guidance, which is giving us a lot of extra healing, and we're looking for a Hex. We're going to Hex the Ret Paladin on his wings, swap all damage and focus fire it on the Death Knight, and this Hex is really the only reason that the Windwalker isn't just outright dead. Blessing of Protection, we're going to purge that off. You always want to react really fast when you see those, and we're just going to lob out more. We get the double sweep right after the bot purge, and we are able to dunk them, and without that Hex we were losing that round. This is why it is super important to be able to pay attention when you can use Hex and utilize it. I saw us focusing the Death Knight, Ret was off DR, and I could go for it, and I don't know what this face is that I'm making in the waiting room after getting that, but obviously I was very happy about that Hex at that moment in time. Past me definitely enjoyed that play, so make sure you're looking for those opportunities. Now we're fighting the Windwalker, and Unleash Shield's going to be a lot better because we can use Earth Grab, Totem, Root to bait Tiger's Lust, and then we can use Unleash Shield to knock root them again, and they won't have any way to move. Monks hate knockbacks and they hate roots. It's really one of the best ways to control them and annoy them at any moment in time. So Fire Elemental down immediately, Flame Shock's out, Earth Grab to get a little bit of distance. They use Wraithwalk and Grip, so I'm trying to Gust of Wind away. This way you can get away from the double Blinding Sleep, and I see that the Monk's popping Serenity, but he's not on me. I'm really just paying attention when the Monk swaps to me, because when that little teal icon on the Monk right here goes up with the number 5 on it, that means they're very dangerous, and you don't want to be anywhere near them, so we're going to Thunderstorm him away and keep our distance for as much as possible. Lasso him, trying to control him during that window of time. He ends up trinketing even though the Priest actually stunned me on it. Go for Hex, gets a Greater Fade on it. Priest can be very tricky to Hex because they have multiple ways to immune it, whether it's Greater Fade with that purple phase shift icon or it's Shadow or Death. But now I see my Ret swap into the Priest, and I'm, hey, that looks kind of good. I'm going to lob out a couple Lava Bursts, chunk them down, force some major cooldowns. We double fear the DPS. You always want to be paying attention where your partner is going in terms of pressure. Now I see a blind and I don't want to break that, so we're going to swap back to the DPS, continue to lob out instant Lava Burst and Earthshock when we don't have procs. I see the Priest just got Death Gripped in, so we're going to Unleash Shield, root the Windwalker, and get some distance with this Freedom. You can also use Earthshock to empower your next shock, so we actually can use it on Frost Shock to get a root. So I rooted the Monk with Frost Shock there after Earthshock, and it just takes him out of the game for a long time. I see the Priest maybe not paying attention to me around the corner, so we're going to slip through and get a Hex. This is getting a ton of pressure on the Death Knight. I'm going to stun the Windwalker. We get cross CC onto 2 players. I isolating the Ret and making it really easy for our healer. We drop a healing stream totem down while we're repositioning. We have the double Earth Shield out. So we've bunkered a lot of support here. Our Earth Ellie's out for stamina and stunning the Death Knight. It's forced the Icebound Fortitude. So Fire Ellie in the opener, as soon as it's over, rotate into the Earth Ellie, get the bonus stam and the stun, and then rotate back into the Fire Ellie likely as soon as possible, because the Fire Ellie is going to be adding you a lot of damage, especially with that on-use Meteor. We got a full fear on the Priest, and that Fire Elemental is out, and he is cooking this monk. We're absolutely going to drop him in round 5. Now we're moving into round 6, and we lost a couple of them, and we're coming back into this game pretty strong, obviously, with the facial expressions that I'm making right there. I don't know what that one was, but we got the Death Knight on our team. Not the greatest comp, honestly, into Ret Windwalker. This is going to be really scary to deal with. They do a lot of damage to a Death Knight, so really supporting them with Hex, because Rets and Windwalkers are really vulnerable to that. They don't have any ranged interrupts or lockdown. It's going to be super important. Game starts the same way though. Fire Elemental, Flame Shocks out as soon as possible. Get as many as you can, even though they're spam dispelling. You do want to get the Primo Wave on cooldown, so it's rotating, because this is going to be one of the best ways to get your stats really high. Fire Elemental is out. We're getting Flame Shocks going. You can try and purge these freedoms too in between the globals. Primo Wave, Sky Fury down, big lava bursts. Get those massive stacks and just keep lobbing out those lava bursts. Flame Shocks are up. We Unleash Shield root the Windwalker there. He's going to roll into me again. We can just lasso him. We're going to get a lasso now, trying to bait him to Trinket, and we're just trying to take him out of the game, limit the damage as much as possible in the initial stages, because melee cleave is very scary. So whenever you get a chance to get a lasso, you're out of range of another melee kick, you want to really take advantage of it. But they're still on top of me. We get put into a leg sweep, and it is Serenity, so I could Trinket Wall here, and I think it's more than fair, especially with the Ret. So we're going to Trinket Wall, Ancestral Guidance. This is answering the Windwalker's Serenity that we can see with that number 3 icon on their Gladius. Whenever we see that scary moment, you got to respect that cooldown. We get stunned and fists, so we're going to use Thunderstorm to knock them away. We're going to use Unleash Shield to knock root them again, and look how much damage we're limiting from the Windwalker. It's super strong against melee that have no ranged attacks like Windwalkers or Rogues. So now we got the Earth Grab root out of that. This monk has not gotten to me for quite some time, and I'm just focusing damage onto the Ret Paladin, pulling him behind the pillar, away from the Priest, and away from my healer. This is the thing when you're kiting melee. I should have Tremor the Sphere. I think I jump out of range and try and get it, but Tremoring the Sphere would have been super important. You can see now I'm starting to fall behind. We get Pain Suppression as I wrap around the corner, and I'm just using Ghost Wolf to kite. And I drag them on top of the enemy Priest so we can get a triple Blinding Sleet into a full Hex. And now the Ret Paladin's really isolated. Primo Wave Lava Bursts are coming in, and we're really starting to put pressure onto them. We get Sky Fury down, but we get put into a stun. We're going to Thunderstorm. We get gripped away. We also got our Fire Alley off cooldown, which we should look to try and get into this fight as soon as possible. We do get it right here. On use Meteor through the wall. We're triple cleaving them. They're really taking a lot of damage from me just stacking the melee on top of the healer like that at that moment, as opposed to bringing them on top of my healer, which is what a lot of ranged DPS do make the mistake of, is pulling melee cleaves back on top of their healer. You need to pull them out in the open or in the opposite direction of your healer around a corner, because your healer doesn't want these melee DPS anywhere near them. You want it so that they have to walk far to get a stun and then get back to you. It gives you time to do stuff like this. Earth Ellie, stun the Ret, knock them into the corner, and get a Hex lasso on the monk and triple CC their whole team and get bubble from the Ret immediately. So if you've got good positioning, 40 yards in the middle, cutting side to side, pulling them on top of the healer, and then pulling them out of line of the enemy healer, you're going to get them in positions like this where it just almost becomes unrecoverable for them. And I'm just going back and forth. I see my Priest in that side room, and I'm just going back and forth, keeping Earth Shield, dropping Earth healing streams as I can. We get a double blind. There's a barrier down, so we're going to look to stay in this. We just Unleash Shield root this guy, kick on the Mind Control, keep Earth Shield up, and burrow. When you're critically low like this, it's not worth gambling it. I'm going to burrow, use that extra mobility to be able to escape while I'm not snared and get some more distance from the monk with the Earth Grab root. We're going to knock him away with Thunderstorm, root him again. He gets stunned on his freedom. We get another Earth Ellie stun, keeping the pressure going. We can see another fear on the Priest here that I should have tremored a global before this. We get the tremor off, almost not in the nick of time. Lasso on the Ret, triple fear, pressure's coming through. I see swap from the Priest. So the Ret and the Priest are both low. So I tab over to the Priest. We finish him off with a Lava Burst and an Earth Shock. We grab 4. We get almost 2,500 rating, and we're straight chilling. So I hope you guys enjoyed this rundown of the Elemental Shaman in PvP, and it helps you out with your rating adventures as well. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.